first order of business is to approve the minutes of March 11. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Mayor, you must be muted.
Yes.
Oh.
There we go.
Second.
There you are.
There we go.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries. At this time, we're going to invite the public to participate and comment. I understand we have at least one person in the lobby standing by to contact by telephone.
Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment at this time? Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding I just received a text from Debbie Moore. It was a USF student who was asking if we could have service between Lakeland and Tampa. He's a Lakeland-based USF student going to school in Tampa. And he'd like to come next month when he can actually see and talk to the board members. I am happy to announce, and I'll say it, that under executive director comments today, I was going to note that Hart has contacted us about applying for a grant for express bus service from Tampa to Lakeland at the Gow Fields Park and Ride lot. And we sent a letter of support. So that may be something that we do with Hart very shortly.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. Any other public comment?
Anyone else on the phone? That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We'll pass on the financials. David's in transit.
I apologize. There's an accident on I-4 East. Car fire. Mr. Prasad will be here shortly. If he's not, I'm fully versed to be able to do financials.
Let's move to legal,
Yes, sir.
and then we'll back up if he's here or not.
Ben?
Yes,
Good morning.
Chairman Lindsay, good morning. There are actually now 3 items to be considered under legal. Item number B has been taken off because the owner submitted his letter with an incomplete legal description. So we're going to consider the proposed addition of the Swan Lake Village lands next month.
Okay.
So the first item to be considered is the public's addition of lands, and the agenda that was distributed yesterday refers to these items as easement agreements. They're not, none of them are easement agreements. They are proposed additions of land. And as you know, from time to time, the City Commission of Lakeland requires that an owner request that his or her property be included in the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District as a part of a zoning change or development plan. So the first one here is the proposed addition of land owned by Publix. And I think there's a diagram that you see there. And there's an arrow on it down to the left side there. There's a proposed addition of land by Publix. Based on the city's requirement, Publix is developing a plaza there at the corner of County Line Road and Pipkin Road. And so that property is proposed to be added to the district. Again, as you all know, the process involves the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District passing a resolution approving of the addition of land, which doesn't have to happen. It's up to this board as to whether the land will be included. And if this board approves of the land being included and being subject to the ad valorem tax, then the next step is for the city of Lakeland to approve of the addition of land that's within the city. So this resolution, one more point, this resolution is resolution number 20-15. Any questions on that?
Often these annexation agreements don't necessarily imply immediate service.
That's a great point. That's exactly right. And there has been in the past that expectation, but it's clearly indicated to the owner that that may or may not happen.
In this
Motion
case,
to
it
approve.
probably,
Yes, and in all cases now where we work with Mr. Barnby in the city, we send out myself or Ms. Killebrew from the executive branch, and then Mr. Dunn from operations, and Mr. Barnby to actually meet with the owner or the developer to talk about what the expectations for transit are, when they can see it, or when they will see it.
Any questions on this item? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item would be, since 4B has been taken off, the next item is 4C, and that would be Resolution 20-16. I actually revised those resolutions late yesterday to change the numbers. It was 20-17, but now that item referred to as the Ackerman annexation on one agenda. It's not, again, an easement agreement, but that's resolution number 20-16. That property is referred to as the Lakeland Dragstrip property, and it's for a redevelopment in the right-hand corner. James, are you got the arrow on that one?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, the Lakeland Dragstrip property. So as a part of the development, the city's requiring that the owner of that property requests that it be included in the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District again.
And that's a warehouse complex.
Yes.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
So it could be an employment center, and it may
Yeah.
wind up having services sometime in the future.
Okay, so that's resolution 20-16.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the third item, number 4D, is the acceptance of the conveyance of property under a county deed from the county to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. This is the property on which exists the Posner Park and Ride facility. Tom can give you more background on that. The proposed county deed has been submitted to us. I don't think actually it's been approved by the county yet. So before, obviously, the validity of a deed is based on delivery and acceptance. And so the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District obviously can accept the proposed delivery, which will happen when the county approves it, and then legally accept it later when the deed's delivered. So this property is just being given to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District for a park and ride facility with, quote, no strings attached, as I understand it, Tom.
Correct. So thanks to the county commission and the county planning and the TPO, much like what the city of Lakeland did with Ramco Gershon next to I-4 and 98 in building of the park and ride lot facility, the county and the TPO required that Posner Park, as part of its development, build a park and ride lot facility with the recognition that it was going to be a major employment center, connection loss. There was going to be a major connection point on the east side of the county moving forward. I'm happy
Can you
to
hear us?
they still.
Yeah.
You're back. You're back.
Can you hear him, Bill?
All right.
No. Now I can hear you. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'll be brief.
Okay.
So
We can hear, but we can't see.
yes, the county required that Posner build a park and ride lot facility. Posner Park has done that. And now that we are the countywide purveyor of transit, that property is being transferred to us. This will effectively become the East Polk County Maintenance Facility. I'm sorry, East Polk County Transfer Facility.
Transfer facility, yes.
Is there a reverter if it's not used in that fashion?
No, sir. The property, I actually found the deed to the county. The property was conveyed to the county by deed. Now the county's deeding it to us. So, no, sir.
I think the intent was obviously when this project started, the county would be a provider of transit.
Yes.
Yes. Motion to approve.
You have a motion?
Second.
A second. Any discussion on the motion to accept transfer of the deed? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With gratitude.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Mr. Cheney, can you please activate your video?
Good morning.
There he is.
Good morning.
We hear you.
Can I be heard or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, the action item that you have before you is, we became aware of a vehicle that could be transferred to Lakeland area mass transit back in January. Long story short, FDOT was difficult to deal with, so we lost interest in it. And then we had our arm twisted and said, you need to take this vehicle because it needs to go in service. So we agreed. And it's actually a good deal for the district for a prorated amount of the 10% of a 5310 grant. We'll end up with a vehicle that is 4 years old. So recommendation is that the board approve moving forward with the transfer of the vehicle.
Motion to purchase.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion?
Question, I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Walker.
Just want to make sure now, it's used for paratransit, am I correct?
Yes,
It
sir.
folds up, it will both, I guess this bus again, we're going through our fleet.
Yes, sir.
We have
This is
paratransit?
coming from Alliance for Independence.
Yes.
And so it is a cutaway style vehicle that we can use in paratransit service. It could also act as a backup for the Dixieland Peach Line for the road diet.
Yes.
And it will be very helpful for hurricane, well, knock on wood, we won't need it, but for the hurricane, this will be a great vehicle to transport people to and from the special needs shelters.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Phillips, let's go ahead with the director's report.
Yes, sir. I wanted to give an agency update on how we were doing with COVID-19, and I can, of course, include Mr. Dunn as well, but I wanted to bring the board up to speed. As you know, we have discussed individually pursuant with the Sunshine Law that in late March, early April, as COVID continued to ramp up, we saw some significant internal pressures from our organization and from our drivers with concerns about coming to work during that. And so we created the Citrus Connection Leave Program, which was from April 6th to April 30th. And that allowed any employee at the Citrus Connection to take from April 6th to April 30th off. They would have to use their sick time first, then use their accrued vacation if they ran out of sick. And then if they ran out of that, it would be unpaid, reporting back to work on Friday, May 1st. We had 37 employees take us up on the Citrus Connection Leave Program, which worked well because we were able to then match the service to the amount of employees that we had and provided them some comfort moving forward. So we went down to approximately 50% of our fixed route and paratransit services. We practice social distancing on all the buses. Every bus is completely sanitized at the beginning of the shift, at the end of the shift, and every single run of the bus. So the average bus is being disinfected between 12 and 20 times a day. The seats directly behind the driver are saran wrapped off so people can't sit there. And then every other seat on the vehicles is saran wrapped off. When the vehicle starts at our Lakeland, Bartow, or Winter Haven terminal, it is considered full when all of the seats on the bus have a person sitting in them. Because you know we are getting our fleet into useful life, that means that some vehicles have 10 seats, some have 8, some have 7. The vehicle then launches from the terminals, and then we pick people up along the way. Right now, we're experiencing about 50% ridership from our norm. Paratransit was limited to medical life-saving only with groceries on Tuesday. We have now restored 100% of our service effective May 1st. And so 100% of our service in paratransit and fixed route is running with all of the social distancing guidelines that we had just discussed. And our ridership's at about 50%. 50%.
Armstrong's gonna, just a second, let's see what he has to say. I think you just hang that up.
No, I'll leave it in case there's somebody there or someone listening. I apologize. So we are practicing social distancing on the buses. Other things that we have done, the drivers have had a $30 mask reimbursement. So if they purchase masks or make masks, we've allowed $30 reimbursement for that. We have allowed work from home with respect to the governor. So those individuals were doing staggering work from home. And we continue to have a waiver of the Citrus Connection attendance policy. So if you're a driver and you use your sick time and you don't notify us in advance, it's considered an occurrence. And after a certain number of occurrences, there's progressive discipline. So we've suspended that occurrence. So if people don't feel well, stay at home, you're not going to be punished. Our goal is to continue the social distancing guidelines, as well as the attendance policy and the mask reimbursement up through phase 3, including the social distancing guidelines. So it's going well. Main takeaways, I would say the main takeaways were that we required a doctor's note to return to work from the Citrus Connection Leave Program. There was a cost associated with that between $30 and $50. Maybe that wasn't necessary. I think it was good as a precaution, but some people found it difficult to get a doctor's note from their primary care physician. So we worked with our medical provider of return to works, and they were able to do something, but it cost $50. So that was a little more expensive. And I'm happy to report to the board, we still have no cases of COVID. We've had 3 close scares, 3 employees tested, all have come back negative to date. And we were the only transit agency in Central Florida that continued to charge a fare throughout the process. And that was largely into response in what we saw in Hillsborough and Pinellas. The moment that they made their systems fare free, they saw the homeless population riding the buses all day, which basically decreased all of the social distancing that was there. So we continued to charge a fare throughout this. And as of today, we are the only tier 2 mid-sized transit agency in the state of Florida that's restored 100% service. Our tier 2 group has decreased service between 90%, and some have reduced service as little as 20 or 30%, but we're the only one running 100% of our schedules. Mr. Dunn, is there anything else you'd like to add regarding COVID?
There's a question from the mayor.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Dunn, I would prefer to follow your comments if I could, sir.
Mr. Walker had a question in the meantime.
Yes, if I could. Are we doing anything different, or are we doing anything more? Well, less or more, I guess would be my question, that you find your other transit authorities are doing when it comes to providing the safety measures in place, things that we should do to support being safe and for people who's ride ship.
Commissioner Walker, I think we're doing everything that we can do that other transit agencies are doing with the tools that we have. The TWU, our union, stepped up and sent PPE to the drivers, extra masks, those type of things. I think the mask reimbursement was good. The only CDC guideline that we're not following is the boarding at the back of the bus door. And largely, we have a lot of seniors and a lot of mobility impaired individuals who can only board on the front, plus we're still charging a fare. But I believe our sanitation is well above the industry norm. You saw in New York, they just started pulling the streetcars to do deep cleans. We're cleaning those vehicles every night. The operators are cleaning them at the end of every shift, but I think it's the between runs that's keeping us the safest. Okay. These drivers are getting to the terminal and disinfecting the bus before they're letting anybody else on. So that, I believe, is the biggest thing that we've done. Moving forward, we are looking at buying the backpack foggers that some transit agencies are using, and that cuts down the time to sanitize the bus from, minutes to seconds. So I think that's a product that we're looking at, but of course we know that the county's looking at the same vendor, the city's looking at the same vendor. I believe the pack is made by Clorox, and so it's back ordered for a while, but we're doing, I believe, everything everyone else is doing and maybe a little bit more.
And as far as employees, those having to return back to work, or not return back to work? How are we set?
37 employees took the Citrus Connection Leave Program. 35 of those employees returned. We had 1 termination. We had 1 retirement. We had 10 employees on the federal CARES program. 6 of those have returned. 4 of those are still off and expected to return.
Okay.
So I believe, Commissioner Walker, the difference that we made in not having positive tests was, looking back on it, the internal agency pressures were greater than the virus the first week in April. And rather than waiting it out into mid-April before making a decision, you all allowed us to say the first week in April, we're going to let you off for the next 24 working days plus weekends if you're scared. And 40 people took us up on that, of an agency of 188. So I was talking with Mr. Dunn, the pressure cooker of anxiety never really started here, because the moment we started to see that there was pressure building, you all allowed us to alleviate it with the leave program. In hindsight, it could have bitten us if the governor had extended the order to May 15th or May 30th, because we were having 37 people come back on May 1st. It worked out well, and we had a plan B. But I think that's the differentiation. That's why the union called us the best, most progressive employer in the nation when it came to taking care of transit employees, because we just realized we weren't going to have drivers on the road that first week in April. We were just going to have mass call-offs. We didn't threaten it. It was just going to happen because of anxiety. So we released the pressure early and had a plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions from staff?
Mr. Dunn, do you have anything to add?
We're not getting any sound.
Mike's not working, Aaron. You're muted somehow.
You just want to bring him, he's just running.
All right, so if it's
Mr.
possible,
We're going to bring him in.
Yeah, Aaron Dunn, come on in.
Bill.
Mr. Mayor?
I just want to comment the extraordinary leadership, the quality of extraordinary leadership in this that you and Aaron and team provided, Tom, and what a fabulous testimony this is of results for having acted quickly and having made the changes that were necessary and being as drastic as necessary. And I think it's a good model for us to think about and to recall, and given future circumstances like this, because we're so vulnerable to COVID in this arena. And the fact that not only have we not had any employees, but we certainly therefore haven't had the risk of infecting any other of our passengers, and the protocols that have taken place for sanitizing. This is just one of those moments that should be celebrated as an A+ performance. And I'm very, very grateful.
Mr. Dunn?
Well, I appreciate the comments from the mayor and the support from the board as well. Well, I think what we did that was really unique compared to the other transit agencies, as well as the things Mr. Phillips discussed, was instead of just reducing our service by 50%, 40%, what we did was we just came up with priorities of work. So on a day-to-day basis, it was a variable service. So in other words, what's the least important route? Cut that one first, all the way down to the most important. So if one person showed up, or if 101 people showed up, we had something to run. And we operated under that model for the entire month, which created a lot more work for external affairs and all the other departments. But I think it was really that, and the other factor being that while the other transit agencies have employees, we have public servants here at Citrus Connection. We've got a highly dedicated staff, and I got to commend them, and all credit be to the operators that put themselves at risk every day to do their work. That's really all I have.
Well, pass along to your entire team the appreciation of the board and the public.
Well,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
that would lead us to agenda item 6B, driver recognition. We have a letter that we would like the board to be able to sign for us to be able to give the entire team that worked through COVID-19. It means a lot coming from board members. Mr. Walters is also working on a thank you video to the drivers, and again, all of our team members, whether it be government relations or mechanics that kept the vehicles running, but having that recognition from the board is very important to them. To that end, as you know, we were supposed to have the Citrus Connection 40th anniversary party that we had budgeted for nominally, and that's probably not going to happen now, at least not while we're 40. And so we've diverted some of those funds, and we're going to do a 40th anniversary polo shirt for board members and for the Citrus Connection staff that'll have the 40th anniversary logo on it. And then, as you know, Mr. Dunn was in the military, and we have a high number of people who worked for the military. And so Mr. Dunn had suggested a military-inspired patch system for when we have events like this and we act as first responders. So there'd be a COVID-19 circular patch that they can sew on or iron on.
Awesome.
And then if we have hurricanes, we have Lake Mirror fires, we have things that the county needs us for. Those who respond as first responders will then get another patch that they can wear. We're going to make sure it's on their right sleeve, so when they're driving the bus and people get on, they'll be able to see it.
Would that include those who served as vets?
Yes. Yes. So everyone, again, we didn't want to, Mr. Dunn would never let me do anything that was too close to the military, right?
That's
But it's a
right.
circular patch that says COVID-19
Right.
and recognizes that,
Right.
that they're there. And then we'll look at possibly with the board's blessing, the money that we had set aside for the barbecue and those types of things, maybe looking at a small one-time bonus for the employees that worked through the crisis. And that is the end of my report.
You want to go into
Rachel?
7?
Effectively, you have my April calendar. You also have the ridership and universal access report numbers. Again, these numbers lag, so it does not respond to COVID-19. I did want to report to the board of directors, as you know, our ridership on the Colts program has not been what we've wanted to have it historically. And we've worked with the school board, as you know, over and over again to try to increase those numbers. And at some point they will rebound. However, the school board has asked, can we add Saturdays to the current contract, considering their ridership is so low? I don't see any issue with it. It'll still be a profit center for us with the school board, but I would like the board's thoughts on adding Saturdays to the Colts program. And then Mr. Darby could work with legal over at the school board to add Saturdays to the current contract for the Colts program. Right now, it only operates Monday through Friday.
You need head nods. I'm nodding in the favor.
Okay.
I can't see.
Question,
Yes, sir.
we get compensated for the Saturday edition?
The projected numbers right now, Mr. Mayor, is that we're actually making a small profit off of the school board. And so the addition of Saturday service would still make it a budgetarily neutral item for the board, considering it's currently a profit center for us. So for the remainder of this contract, which is another year, it would be included in the current price, and then we would adjust thereafter.
You okay with that? Mayor?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm sorry, I assume I did a head nod. I apologize. You can't see me probably.
I can't hear your head nod.
Well, I apologize for Mr. Prasad, but I can do the financials as well.
Okay, let's read one more acknowledgement from Mr. Carley. Are you okay with the Saturday service with school board?
I think it's a great idea to go ahead to do Saturday service. The more kids we could get to start riding the bus, I think the better in the long run for volume.
Agreed. Okay, Mr. Walker?
If I could, Mr. Chair, could I go back to make a comment about the 40th anniversary kind of celebration?
Back up. Do we need a motion on this Saturday thing?
Mr. Darby, do we need a motion on the Saturday?
So, yes.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
we have a motion. Need a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to include Saturday service for a Colts program. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Walker, if you want to back up.
Yes, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just make a comment about, and we know we all went through, I think, a horrific kind of a situation with this COVID-19 kind of the pandemic situation. But I think what we like is where people still need, I'll call relationship. And we're coming back hopefully as safe as we can and being as smart but safe. And as our governor said, kind of a safe by safe or safer kind of a situation as we move into getting businesses back up running etc. But I think I think we lack is that people are made to be and to have a relationship. And if we become so dormant and so non-relational, we provide, it's like our children today sometimes. I know when my youngest who came through this breath of technology, I had to make sure at a certain time of night, he put everything down because they become so immune to not wanting to talk, not wanting to have conversation, and we don't have relationships. We can't build relationships. So my suggestion would be, I know at this time maybe it's not proper for us not to do a kind of a celebration for the 40th anniversary, but maybe by the time Christmas roll around, I don't know, Thanksgiving roll around, things are back to some kind of what I heard my fellow colleagues mention yesterday in our retreat that we had for our city operation, some kind of where we would be called normal or whatever you want to call it at that time. But I think it would be good to still have a gathering. This is a relationship. And I think if we allow ourselves to become so immune to, okay, not talking, not saying anything, or whatever, we could become a society just gadgets. That's my suggestion. So you would think about it.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes.
Forward.
Staff is taking note.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
All right, we're backing up now to financials 3A.
We are. I'm not Mr. Prasad. Again, I apologize for I-4.
Good.
So I will do the monthly financial statements, starting with the LAMTD financials. This is covering a period of less than 1 year. Looking at revenues, fare box revenues reflect 90% of the year-to-date budget. Contract revenues totaled 71,225, budgeted for the UAP. Other contractual revenues were zero for Ramco, but I would like to thank copiously Mr. Ben Darby. Ramco Gershon had fallen silent for approximately 90 days on the billing. The required contribution of $93,600 for the operation of transit services. Mr. Darby tracked them down, and I'm happy to say that the check's in the mail. And so we will be receiving the Ramco payment quickly. Florida DOT operating grants are 1.7 million and billed quarterly. FTA Section 5307 operating and capital budget is 2.4 million. We have been allocated our 5307 for this year, and our process is in application, has been approved, but we are not yet able to draw. That's not problematic at this point. You will notice that when we talk about the county budget, especially Commissioner Lindsay, you'll notice that we have drawn the 5307 money for the county, not for LAMTD. Why is that? Because we are drawing off of the county's old 5307 funds. So we'll be drawing on the new funds quickly. Advertising income reflects under budget. Support costs are in line with budget. Looking at expenses, salaries and benefits are 65% of the year-to-date budget. Professional and technical services expenses are over budget, but that is due to our largest contract, which is Trapeze. For our Trapeze payment, that is our paratransit scheduling software. We continue to enjoy a fuel savings, a significant fuel savings. You know, that is our Achilles heel, that and property tax values for LAMTD. And we have made the CRA payment for the year of $257,706. As you know, and I'd like to thank the mayor and Commissioner McCarley, we have an agreement with the city. There we are. We have an agreement with the city so that that money does come back to the district in the form of transportation within the CRA areas. So Commissioner Lindsay, it is not what we had gone for initially, which was just that we don't pay it.
Right.
But we do have a good agreement with the city of Lakeland. So that is the city's, the Fund 1 LAMTD financials.
Proceed.
You want to pick it up with the county?
Yes.
Excellent.
Sorry, I was closed down.
You're on 3-2.
Okay. County?
We're glad to see you are safely here, Mr. Prasad.
Thank you very much. Wasn't the wrong one. Finish LAMTD?
Yes.
Okay. The LAMTD financials are pretty much in line with the budget.
County.
I'll be moving over to county. The financial report is for 6 months or 50% of the fiscal year. And for the county, we have a year-to-date budget of 3.9 million. Revenues are 3.3 or 86%, slightly under. Expenses are 3.2 million or 82% of the budget. All the expenses are within the budgeted framework, no unfavorable variances, and the revenues likewise are pretty much all favorable. There is no deviation from the budget. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I think that's pretty remarkable given the times.
Yes. You may see some unfavorable trend in the next 2 months, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we get that verdict, then we're gonna have to see how it
Yeah.
cascades through the organization.
And we're looking at it closely.
Yeah. We see.
All right, the next financial report is for the transportation disadvantage. And this is a state-funded program at 90% level, and the remaining 10% comes from the county. Because it's a state program, the fiscal year is July 1 through June the 30th. So this financial statement represents 75% of the budget. The total revenues are just $1,082,000 or 96% of the budget. We get monthly reimbursements, and the expenses are 0.9 million or 82%. So the expenses are favorable, the revenues are favorable. Because it's a state-funded program and no obligation of the we try to compare the actual revenues to the expenses, and through the first 9 months, the revenues exceeded expenses by 153,000.
That's a
So
good
that's
trend.
a good sign.
Any questions of Mr. Prasad?
Thank
You got
you.
one from Mayor.
Okay.
Yes, are we remaining current with all of our transportation disadvantaged entities?
You want to answer that? Transportation disadvantages, additional providers?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I will follow up with our team.
Yeah.
I can tell you that if you're referring to the insurance partnerships that we have, yes, Alliance for Independence is fully paid, and Elder Point Ministries is current as well. If you're discussing individual reimbursements for the agencies through the CTC, that's something I can find out for you. But yes, I believe we are current.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it was the former that I was most
Yes,
interested
sir.
in.
Everyone is current.
3D, who's,
I get to give this one.
okay?
All right. I'm very excited this year, especially after the heart attack last year, that I'm able to present this agenda item with hopefully little fanfare. So the staff is recommending that we remove the audited pension liability and allow the county an exemption totaling $475,906 from the pension liability. You know, the county raised several questions regarding the audit and accrued expenses. So this falls in line with what we did last year. So we are seeking approval for a pension liability expense removal of $475,906. And I'm happy to announce that the remaining audited expense on the entire county budget from Fund 6 and Fund 5 is $59,018. So those are actual expenses over revenues that we will bill the county, but with your approval, the audited pension liability will not be passed on to the county.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
like sign. Carries.
Thank you.
Good job.
TD Grant.
The next item is a resolution to accept the next fiscal year funding for the transportation disadvantage. This is an annual cyclic resolution that the board has to approve to manage the program. Again, there is 90% funding, or $1.4 million in total budget, of which 1.3 is coming from the state and $148,000 is coming from the county. The county share is already reflected in the proposed county budget that we have transmitted to the county staff. So basically, there's no obligation to the district, and this resolution allows us to fund next fiscal year TD program.
Any questions on the matter?
Motion to approve Resolution 20-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, who's got 3F?
The next agenda item is to approve the 3 resolutions to do some revision to some federal grants. The district in the last 3 years have been preparing an independent cost allocation study by an independent consultant. And this is a requirement by the Office of Management and Budget to allow the district to recover indirect costs. Right now, the process in place and the requirement from the FDOT is that we have to provide all supporting expenses for every single line item expenses. What's going to happen with the passage of this resolution is that based on the study, we can recover 31% of the indirect costs, and the only direct costs will be salaries. So it's going to streamline the grant billing process, allow us to use a cost allocation plan, and speed up our cash flow.
That's all.
We have been trying to get this, the FDOT approved for the last 3 years, and they finally concurred.
Will that require an annual action on this part, or does this carry us
I
forward?
think the FDOT wants it annual, yes.
Okay. Any discussions on this item?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right, the next agenda item is the new funding we have received from the CARES Act in response to the COVID-19. The federal, the CARES Act was approved with $2 trillion worth of funding. This particular resolution is to request approval by the board for the 5311 grant totaling $815,000, of which $690,000 is for capital and shelters $125,000. There's no match to this. It's a stimulus funding, and once this resolution is approved, FDOT will be able to process it and we'll get the funding quickly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And the next resolution is a similar grant for 5311 for $2.198 million. And we are requesting board approval based on FDOT request to expedited funding. At the next board meeting, we'll have the LAMTD resolutions approval, but this is all 100% funded with no requirement for matches. 2 new routes will be funded. The
Payne City to Point Sienna. You have the map in your board agenda packets. And James is bringing it up on the screen for those that are on Zoom. The second is a US 60 route from Mulberry to Lake Wales. As you know, this has been on the wish list for decades. And then a full-time route maintenance position for 3 years, totaling $176,181, not for one position for 1 year. This is CARES funding that came to DOT. And DOT is dispersing to the partner agencies, if you approve this and the one that you did before. We have also been awarded $5 million in CARES funding for the Winter Haven urbanized area from the Federal Transit Administration, and $7 million for the Lakeland area urbanized areas. That will be a discussion that we have with the board in the future. They're using 5307 as the vehicle to pass it through. The reason that we had to rush these to the board was DOT wants to disperse the money to the partner agencies and get it spent quickly. And so they required that we actually submitted projects as of last Monday. And so we took these projects from My Ride, My Roads. as what was needed on the east side of the county and what was needed in rural areas.
Are we creating the expectation of continued service thereafter when this grant expires?
We will be very careful and meet with our community partners to make sure that they understand that when it comes to these routes, this is 3 years worth of funding.
And that's a key point, because
And-
we don't want the expectations and seeing how things go for those many months.
Yes, sir.
Years.
Yes, sir.
And then boom, hey, what happens next?
You created the dependency.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And we also discussed with Mr. Shively yesterday in Human Resources, making sure that the individuals that we hire from route maintenance also understand that this is a 3-year funded project. Now, typically, as you know, if we can prove that the program works, DOT will continue to fund the program.
There's one additional item. The 7 million that the district will be receiving is a combination of capital and operations. So the staff position in consultation with Tom is for us to expedite the operating part of the CARES Act, and that will save our 5307 for this year that we can carry forward for next year in case we have a shortfall or to apply for capital funding. So it's some fiscal relief for this fiscal year once we can expedite it.
Yes. So Commissioner Lindsay and commissioners, as you know, but Commissioner Lindsay knows intimately because of the county budgeting process. That's the way that we've been budgeting for the county since we merged with the county. We've been using old 5307 money to alleviate additional needs on the county's general fund. Effectively, what this CARES funding will do for LAMTD as well is allow for us to apply that same methodology if we see an economic downturn for the next however many fiscal quarters.
Any other comments or questions?
Hey, Tom, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
On the Point Siena Haines City one, so the Colts, the students in that program could utilize that, right?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, many of the students who live in Point Siena, my understanding is Haines City High School is their high school. If they
That's
live on
my alma mater, and a bunch of my friends lived in Point Siena. So yeah.
Yes, any route that we operate is or contract on the east side of the county, the Colts program is eligible, as are all of our other universal access programs. And as a reminder, the first transfer with Lynx is free. So if they transfer to Lynx in Point Siena, it's free. And if someone comes from Lynx to us, the transfer will be free. And that'd be something that we would obviously bring forward to the board if this HART partnership works out as well.
Yes.
We don't know the price yet that HART wants to charge for that express service. I believe it'll be a premium service.
That'd be a good one too.
Okay, we need a motion
Motion to approve.
that item, resolution 2013.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, motion carries.
You're down to other business.
That's it?
That's it.
The other CARES money you talked about, you're going to develop a outline for that for next month.
We will be discussing an outline next month and then seeking the board's input and what they would like to do at our strategic planning retreat, which we have now scheduled for the July board meeting. James has worked with your admins to schedule the July board meeting. Circle B accepted the reservation. And so we'll bring that forward to get your thoughts as a board in July as well.
Wasn't the strings attached to your CARES money were different than the strings attached to the county's care money. So would you share that with us so we know between now and the meeting as to what we can and can't spend those dollars on?
So the vehicle for the federal CARES program is coming through 5307, which is our largest block of money that we get for urbanized areas in Lakeland and Winter Haven. And so the requirements on that CARES funding, as Mr. Prasad had said, are for capital and operating, and it cannot be used for plugging fare box recovery losses. So we cannot make the system free or reduce the fares and charge 5307. Other than that, Anything that is eligible under 5307, capital and operating, what we currently do would be an eligible expense under the federal CARES program.
What is the timing to spend it?
The federal, the dollars that you just approved from FDOT, they want to see spent within the 3-year window. From the federal program, they have not given us a window at this point. However, Mr. Wetzel, our senior planner, says, and I believe this to be true, we should be aggressive in spending that CARES funding because as we look to the future and debt and those types of things that the nation's going to have to deal with, unused and old federal funds sitting there are very popular to claw back. So we'll be aggressive, Commissioner Lindsay. As Mr. Prasad said, I think the safest thing for us to do is look at how we balance the budget with those dollars. And I think that that's something we may need to do based on what property tax and sales tax values do at the county. But we'll be aggressive with that because we don't want it to sit there and lay there. That being said, I can tell you that no one in our organization is asking you to build electric buses or anything like that. Well, we'll be prudent.
I would expect prudence.
Yeah, it's not.
The other lesson learned at the county side is we have a shorter window to spend the money than you do. And there is extra caution to create a audit trail for these dollars because there will be an audit at some time. And we sure don't want to be in a position of having to find unqualified expenditure. So
Yes, sir. Especially with this organization, with its history, we'll be very cognizant.
yes, so just be super sensitive to that. It doesn't mean to be frozen by it, but be cautious by it.
And that's a very good observation because Rodney, our planner, he's been working very closely with the FDOT staff, and he's been getting guidance as to what eligible, what is not eligible expense.
Mhm.
And right now we have a general framework of which of the 7 million and 3 million is for buses and the remaining is for other capital projects, but we can fine tune this for the next board meeting. And we also, if we do get FDOT approval before we bring it to the board.
Yeah, we have all that, you guys indicated in July, right?
Well, we'll bring it forward in June.
Yes.
In June,
The
they
board
were,
can discuss in July at the retreat, and then we'll move forward.
Yes.
There was a comment from the mayor.
Yes,
My comment is that I think what a wonderful privilege this gives us to try and do something a little more aggressively to fill voids. I mean, seriously, think I could be in Bradley Junction and go to Eagle Ridge Mall and be connected. That's pretty exciting for people. It's life-changing. And so when you can make these kinds of connections, get them funded and spread them over 3 years, which is a lot of time for us to be able to see viability and to move into opportunities. What a great window.
good observation.
yeah.
Any closing comments, Mr. Walker?
Good to see you all, and know that you all are safe and healthy.
Ms. McCarley, any closing comments?
I just appreciate all the work Transit Authority's done. It's been amazing, and they have just, their professionalism and also the proactive planning that everyone has done is admirable. And thank you all for working so hard.
Any other closing comments? We are adjourned.
Really, Georgia, you know, city and